Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to Let's Play Dark Souls 3. Before we move into Lothric Castle, I've got to make a quick correction. You can no longer effectively two-hand a weapon just by meeting half of its strength requirements. I found that out when I couldn't two-hand this Black Knight halberd, and surprisingly, I couldn't find anything online about this. So I have 19 strength, the Black Knight halberd requires 28. So I tested this with a couple other things like the Exile Greatsword, which requires 24, and I can two-hand this just fine. I also messed around with the Winged Knight halberd, which I'll show now. It requires 26 strength, and I can two-hand this just fine. So between 26 and 28 strength, I lost that ability. I did the math, and I came to a hypothesis that we're going to test out. You now have to be at 66.6 repeating percent, or 2/3 of the weapon's strength requirement to proficiently two-hand it. And we test that by going from 18 to 19 strength, and lo and behold, the 28 strength Black Knight halberd can be effectively two-handed now. So yeah, 19 strength is just over 2/3 of the 28 strength requirement of the weapon. It's actually, it's like 67.8% or something like that, but I'm assuming the actual requirement is 2/3 because why would it be 68 or 67.8 instead of the cleaner 2/3? So they made it 33% harder to two-hand heavy weapons with low strength. Now we can actually finally, I know we've climbed that ladder a lot, we can actually move into Lothric Castle now. And we don't want to take too many chances with this red-eyed knight. They introduce you to Lothric Castle in a big bad way. Not only is this knight really tough, he comes paired with a healer, which makes him that much worse. Not enough stamina to keep that assault going. Lothric's difficulty spikes upwards pretty hugely. And there aren't a lot of like Anor Londo Demon Archer moments. It's mostly straightforward, tougher enemies. I really like the look of this. It's kind of like a mausoleum. I like the way it's laid out. Yeah, it's more just about straightforward, tough fights. Like more varied compositions of groups, more challenging enemy placements, just stronger enemies overall. It's really fitting for an endgame zone. I guess while we're on the subject, there's a lot of talk about Dark Souls 3 being easier than before, and I'll say a few things about that. One, I and most of the people complaining about it being easy are way, way too deep in to have any kind of accurate barometer for difficulty at this point. If you combine all the Soulsborne games together, my playthrough count is up in like the mid-20s. That level of familiarity is going to hamstring the difficulty curve a little bit. And debates about which game is the hardest are always going to go poorly because, like, 99% of the time, the hardest Soulsborne game is the one you played first. After, like, 80 hours of Soulsborne gameplay, like, the skills you've learned translate pretty directly to all the others. And the main things that you learn largely have to do with, like, patience and situational awareness and how to observe and figure out boss patterns quickly, more so than any other things. Makes it really easy to adapt. This empty room has two pointless features. First is the door out here, which just leads out to a drop that takes you back to the landing above the ladder in the dancer's room. And this bonfire, which is situated after a grand total of like 5 enemies, with no shortcuts leading back here, and very minor spoilers for what's up ahead. We're minutes away from another bonfire. Prince Lothric's robe, the prince destined to be a Lord of Cinder, was cherished by the royal family. Despite being born into illness, a frail and shriveled child, his swaddling clothes were made of aged, coarse cloth used in ancient prayer, and are all that he has ever worn. Learning a very little detail about Prince Lothric. So yeah, that last bonfire, it's pretty pointless. And the big shortcut in this level that connects the boss of the area to one of the bonfires goes back to the Dancer's bonfire anyway. They didn't need a single bonfire other than the Dancers, to be honest. This level is a bunch of like zigzags that once you open up all the shortcuts, you can cut a pretty straight line through all of it from the Dancer's bonfire. I would rather that they had removed all the bonfires and put in one more small shortcut from the Dancer's bonfire leading to the courtyard where we're going to find the third bonfire. It's mostly a nitpick though, because this and the next area are still some of my favorite levels. I would say just for wall layout, I would tip my hat towards the Undead Settlement, and as a runner-up, probably the Cathedral of the Deep. But as a total package, Lothric Castle and the next zone, which is more of a sub-zone of Lothric Castle, they take it for me. They've got it all. Powerful atmosphere, environmental storytelling, a lot of good ambushes, trap rooms, some really good enemy placements, like the dude up there who's poised on a tower hailing down Lloyd's talismans on you. Like big sprawling layouts that make good use of space, both laterally and vertically. Plus a real abundance of shortcuts that link up so many parts of the level. And it helps that the bosses are both kind of exceptional. Something that harkens back... Whoa, hold on. I'll get back to that in a second. And another thought. That's a fucking lavish painting. Winged Knight armor. Armor of the Winged Knights, named for their appearance, who swore themselves to the angels. Worship of the divine messengers was viewed as heresy in Lothric and unrecognized by any of the three pillars of rule. This is believed to be why Gertrude, the heavenly daughter, was imprisoned in the lofty cell of the Grand Archives. Well, I can stop beating around that bush now. The next zone is the Grand Archives. So, the Grand Archives, like I was saying, is kind of a sub-zone of Lothric Castle. Was I saying it? Yeah, this zone... Ooh. What have we here? An especially good look. Oh god, you get here and see that and it just freaks you out. I love it. Or at least it did for me. Like, what the fuck are those? The wings give them kind of a familiar shape, but they're so alien looking. Oop. Their forms, like this is what I was getting at with the hand hippos, they're just wrong looking. And they're seen nowhere else in the game up until now. And they all seem to be gravitating towards the very peak of Lothric Castle. Like they're making this, almost looks like a pilgrimage up there. Whoa! Try to get this thought process back on track. So yeah, something about this level that harkens back to how a lot of Dark Souls 1 was, is it's designed in a way that the castle's progression is largely like vertical, and the shortcuts you're opening up let you skip a lot of the climbing, and they're winding you in a spiral almost while you go up the so those shortcuts feel even more significant. And the level winds up taking a while to get through on the first go, but with all the shortcuts, it takes no time at all to go anywhere. That's how all of Dark Souls 1 was designed. A lot of the zones were stacked on top of each other, like a tower, which is what let the world design really shine, and how they were able to connect so many of those zones together in that mind-blowing way. They don't stack the zones on top of each other anymore. We're gonna dip down here, but they do play with that vertical level design a lot, especially in this late game. It's very exciting. He is gonna pop into a Puzzle Man, and somebody rightfully pointed out like a long time ago that if you let them burst and fight the Abyss creature, then they drop some large Titanite, and they're still dropping it at this point in the game. So it's not worth letting them pop anymore, because it's not like they're dropping Titanite chunks or, God forbid, slabs. There's another thread that I kind of wanted to get back to pulling from earlier when I was talking about the difficulty. Got sidetracked on. I think the obsession with difficulty in Souls is missing the point by like a country mile. The Souls games are challenging, but they aren't unreasonably. They're not even, I wouldn't even call them very hard. And I'm even counting, like, very first Souls game playthroughs. Like, they are above average difficulty games, but I don't think they're masochistically so. But that's the first thing that got played up when they kind of blew up. When the word of mouth really put the spotlight on Demon Souls and Dark Souls. Like, the first thing that was played up was, yo, if you played this Demon Souls game, it's brutal, it's so hard. And then all the prepare to die marketing shit for Dark Souls 1, it gives way to this pervasive attitude that the Souls games are all about unforgiving difficulty and how many times you're gonna die in a playthrough and how you'll break your controller out of frustration. And it's too easy. If it's too easy, then it's, like, it's lesser. That attitude does such a disservice, I think, to the series. To the joy of discovery and all the little things that make the series really special. I don't think difficulty is one of the things that actually makes the series special. There are things about the difficulty that, like, I specifically like the lack of handholding. That I appreciate, but difficulty shouldn't be the defining factor of a Souls game and whether or not it succeeds. So it's always a little bit disappointing to hear the conversation focus heavily on it being, like, brutally difficult, instead of so many of the game's other features, like visual design. Oh god, finally a good segue. This is visually, like, my favorite part of the game. And the more time we spend outside in it, the better. We're gonna come around here for just a second so I can point out how worthless it is to come back here. There are 2 of those nights, and that's it. There's nothing around the corners. There's nothing. Nothing. Another one of these guys perched up on a nice vantage point, lobbing Lloyd's talismans down. I like it. It's a nice little touch. That's something else I don't think gets pointed out enough about the difficulty of the Souls games. Like, if you're gonna talk about how hard they are, there's a much more interesting conversation to be had about the ways in which the Souls games are difficult and how clever the difficulty is in some places. Or, like, with these enemies, which they're just kind of tough mini-bosses. Yeah. The interior environments in Lothric Castle aren't bad by any stretch, but I specifically love spending time outside in this zone. Because we finally hit the point in the game where the sky changes, and it is such a cool sight. Part of what I love about this zone so much is it's got a really unique identity compared to some of the other zones. And that's because of the shift in mood and style. Like, you can observe that difference in any open air zone from this point onwards, but this is the first that, like, this is Lothric Castle's kind of whole thing. You will never be in Lothric Castle and not see this end of the world dark sign eclipsed sky that looks like it's been set on fire. And now is a good time to pass. And every game's art style and approach to their environments has changed just a little bit, both on the technical side, but also like the artistry of them. Demon's Souls is kind of ugly and flat in some places, but it's also, I think, defined by simplicity and it's recognizable. You can always tell Demon's Souls apart from the others. The art of Dark Souls 1, I feel, is so much different from any of the others. It's probably the biggest difference from any of them. Like, yeah, starting with Scholar of the First Sin or Bloodborne, you get the fidelity increase because you're jumping forward a generation, but in terms of just art style and color palette, the color palette of Dark Souls 1 is very limited. But the big thing that I think gives it its visual style is how high they crank, like, the contrast up and the way that it's lit. It gives everything this really harsh look. And all of the darks come out kind of grimy. And really, there are only two softer looking areas in the game, Ash Lake and the Painted World, and they're both still kind of hazy and grimy. So you can see growing out of the foot of one of the dragons is this pus of man again. First time we've seen something like this. And then in Dark Souls 2, they went sort of back to the Demon's Souls aesthetic, except with a much bigger color palette, with brighter environments, and with a lot more detail in the environments. And then you get, oh god, these things are so fucking annoying. There's only one direction you can approach them from. And if you stay away from them for too long, they start spitting cursed goo at you. Then you get Bloodborne, which has a very similar style, but it's still, like, the environmental design is what sets it apart. It makes it wildly different, both in the early game and the end game when you get to the nightmare sections. Bloodborne also has the best fire animations ever. Like, compare how my sword looks right now, coated with the Karthus flame arc. It's not terrible, but you remember in Bloodborne when you would use a fire paper on a weapon, how it would look, how awesome that was? Like, not just the embers that came off of it, but they applied like a motion blur or something to the particle effect, so that when you swung it, it just looked awesome. And Bloodborne was a fine looking game. So 4 games, all with similar art styles, but with very different aesthetics. A big chunk of Dark Souls 3 up until now has felt like kind of a hodgepodge of art styles. Mainly kind of a mix of Bloodborne and PS2. So when I say Lothric Castle has a unique visual identity, compared to the rest of the game, that's kind of what I mean, because this is the first point in the game where the style of the art really shifts drastically. And it's lent a little bit of harshness from that burning orange sky and everything going on. It's not just, you could probably tell Dark Souls 3 apart from PS2 just from, you know, the amount of stuff in the environments or the fidelity or something like that. But all technical aspects being equal, you would struggle to tell this apart from like PS2 or even some parts of Bloodborne if you turn the HUD off. In a lot of areas of this game, and that's not a terrible thing. Like, the art styles of all 5 games are, again, similar, but up until now, they all had unique visual identities, too. This shortcut will open up that giant gate that the 2 dragons were guarding, the 2 dragons now being dead. Weirdly enough, both dragons kind of... One just flat out disappears when you kill the pus of man coming out of its foot. The other one goes dormant and appears to die. But there's still something to deal with that dragon later on. But yeah. So now we just get a straight run across that other bridge. And across the moat from the 3rd bonfire. Even if we had to run here from Dancer's Bonfire, this is what I was saying before, it wouldn't be a long run now. Like, through that gate, just a little ways past the gate is the boss. So we took all this time getting here and unlocking all this stuff, but to start from square one, now with the shortcuts open, it'd be a very short run, even from the Dancer's Bonfire. So I don't think the 2nd bonfire was necessary. Let alone the 3rd, especially since we're going to open another shortcut up in a moment. This one right over here, this elevator. It goes back to the room with the first knight, just past the ladder from the Dancer's Bonfire. So once you... Oh, man, that looks awesome. We'll get to that. So you spawn at the Dancer's Bonfire, you go up the ladder, forward into that room, and you hang a left, and you're at the elevator that takes you to the boss. Like, the shortcut already goes there, so 2nd and 3rd bonfire, not really necessary. For a sec, I thought there was a crystal lizard that was supposed to spawn back there. Nope. Okay, do we have a problem? Look at this motherfucker running in circles. Okay. Try and get him inside then. Nope, I thought he left right off of, For a second, I thought he left right off the roof. I was hoping he was. Ooh, one of them came in the room. Be able to... Nope. Nope, nope, nope. Bad estimation. Bad plan. Bad plan. Okay, how are we doing this? Oh, that's nice. Takes forever to recover from that animation. Really, really easy to backstab him off that. So this is what we'll do differently. Still 8-1. 1 is not a problem. Especially at full health. Oh, I should have just done that from the start. I kind of overthought that. Nothing around here? I thought there was another corner with something. And I believe... Oh, that's not... Oh, I'm thinking of the opposite side of the level. That had a chest. Oh, okay. The Knight's Ring, I want to say, is the Strength Ring. It has basically the same description as one of the rings we already have. About the 3 pillars of rule. Oh shit. Oh no, that's a big waste opportunity. These guys suck. Yeah, it's a lot more straightforward than some of the difficulty spikes in the other games. I've always described them as fuck you moments. There's not really anything like that. There's not a big fuck you moment in Lothric. It's just a very straightforward difficulty increase. Holy shit, I never noticed that before. He takes the time to unbolt the door before opening it. I love those little animation details From puts in. The ultimate's always going to be the Kirkhammer one, though. Late in the game to be getting this, but we finally reached the Altar of Sunlight, which has been suspiciously moved here. Whatever. Yeah. Yeah, it's really surprising that it takes so long to get this, because I don't think there's any other way to turn sunlight metals in. You can hear something writhing around. There it is. The other pus of man growing out of the other dragon. Just to be safe, I'm going to put the silver cat ring on, because I am probably going to get hit by that when I land. Yeah, eat a dick. Oh, it's a cheap shot. If I had taken falling damage on top of that, it might have killed me. This one's otherwise not that bad, though, because you have a little bit more room to get around his attacks. So if you didn't know this about the Praise the Sun gesture, there's a little bit of history behind it. So first off, it was originally in Demon Souls. I've talked about this before. It was originally in Demon Souls as the alternate casting animation when your casting got sped up for miracles when you put the Ring of Divine Prayer on. Then Miyazaki just wanted to put it in Dark Souls 1 as a little Easter egg. And this was before he became president of FromSoft, so one of his higher-ups told him that it looked too silly and that he needs to take it out. So he just found a more hidden way to keep it in the game as the Praise the Sun gesture. He just snuck it in. The last tome that we need that we can give to Irina. Also, imbued with strength of lightning, this featureless longsword contains the very power of the sun. Perhaps it's a relic of one-sided adoration. A little rib at Solaire. A sacred braille tome from Lothric filled with miracles for use by knights. Give to a storyteller to learn Lothric miracles. It's said that no paladin inside Lothric Castle could fall, owing to the divine protection they enjoyed. I don't think it makes a difference which one of these balconies I fall from. Nope, because if I had fallen from the other one, it just would have led to this platform anyway. Wasn't sure if there might have been an item on one of the landings. And does that clear the zone? I believe it does. Scary paladin with a great sword is still stomping around, though. He's easy enough to get past. Like, if you're good enough to do the run from, yeah, there's still this. If you're good enough to do the run to, the Ancient Dragon in DS2, then you'll be fine. Or the run to, Velstadt without killing anything. You can dodge any enemy. I'm not sure which of those two runs was worse. I might have to tip my hat to the Velstadt one. Just because there were two right in front of the fog gate. And you didn't have, like, oh, I'm still so pissed off that the rolling animation, or the, not the rolling animation, the animation to go through a fog door is so long in DS2. Oh, this is the drop I want to make. Okay, good. It took fucking forever to get through fog gates. And you had no invincibility while doing it. So they could cancel you out of going into Velstat's room. It's a really nice vista from this shingled roof. Oh, this is why you would have gone to that corner with nothing in it except the 2 knights to clear it out. Because of the drop from when you get Keitha's chime, it leads right back there. Okay. Sacred chime blessed by Keitha, goddess of tears, rare even amongst Kareem clerics. Affected by intelligence, a rare thing for miracle catalysts, and also agreeable with miracles that lean towards the dark. Its existence is concealed in the name of the Archbishop, as it is anathema. So yeah, another one of these, and it's again connected with the Archdeacon. I believe that one would be Klimt. So instead of dealing with those 2 knights, hey, we're gonna homeward bone, because we got shortcuts. Now we get to see what's going on behind that fog door, because it looks like stuff is popping off. Holy shit! Nothing too spectacular happened on the first attempt. My timing was just way off. I'm gonna give this a little bit of room to breathe, because I think this is my favorite song in the whole soundtrack. He uses the shield almost as much as that giant axe. Ooh. Oh no, I missed the chance for damage. Okay, on to phase 2. He has 3 attacks out of that dual-wielding anime, or the two-handing animation. That is what trips me up the most. Oh my god, this is cool. So the other thing that starts happening now in phase 2, those humongous, grotesque creatures in the sky start interfering. I think this fight is a masterpiece of mood and atmosphere. Yes, this is my favorite part of the song when the strings kick in. It feels like this is the end, like this is the last time we're gonna get to have this fight. It's kind of why I dig the callback here. There's a sense of finality that's blended into the atmosphere of like the dark sign eclipse, all of the gross things taken to the air, and we're perched up on this bridge overlooking the world as it falls apart. It is an evocative fight, and it feels dangerous. Holy shit! Because of the mood, because of stuff like that, he is, like, Ornstein has never been this physically intimidating as the old Dragon Slayer armor, which doesn't necessarily mean Ornstein is in it anymore, it's just possessed armor retaining some of the Ornstein-ness that used to inhabit it. The way he swings that axe and the environment crumbles, like, it reminds me of Penetrator in a way. Such a good feeling rhythm to it. This fight just works for me on a really emotional, cathartic level. Plus, like I said, the best soundtrack in the game. So it's that one lone variation of that creature is the most detailed version, too. I think it's also physically the largest, and it's the only one to die when the old Dragon Slayer armor bites the dust. Solo the Dragon Slayer armor. The Dragon Slayer armor, controlled by the Pilgrim Butterfly, lost its master long ago, but still remembers their sporting hunts. So yeah, no more Ornstein, but the armor is just still animated. Good God. I wanted more statues of beheaded knights. Remember when we placed the Basin of Vows before? That's how we got the ladder to drop in the dancer's room, the beheading knight statue. I'm going to talk more about the Pilgrim Butterfly, which is apparently what those things are called, and the music of this fight next time. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take it easy. Have a good one.